Hello, everyone, to Once the Force of Stars podcast. My name's Phil, of course, and I'm joined as usual by Dave and George, sadly, for our final ever Clone Wars breakdown. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, not afternoon, not evening, morning.
Indeed, we're not
it's a weird thing to have at the start of our episodes. The good morning, like what? That's not how we do it.
Nope, but it is true. We're sat here Friday morning, May the 4th. Friday morning, Monday morning, May the 4th. Oh, I am tired. So last night, this morning, we had something drop. Finally, this is of course, the final episode of the Clone Wars. And before we go any further, I will, of course, say if you haven't watched the episode, massive spoiler alert for what's going to happen. Go watch the episode before you watch this, because we're going to be talking as much in depth as possible. Unlike some other people, we haven't spoiled it in the thumbnail.
You guys said this morning. Sorry to one up you all. For me, it was last night. So people may have seen spoilers dropping on the internet last night. It wasn't us, don't worry. Without telling anyone. So Disney Plus, when they update Disney Plus, it's always midnight in America, 3 a.m. in one half of their time zone, 8 a.m. over here, and like 5 p.m. in Australia. It's always like a set across the board. This is the Disney Plus update. So yesterday, without telling anybody, they are updating it at May the 4th at midnight for every country. And obviously, the first country is Australia, who are 9 hours ahead of us over here. And I don't even think most of the Australians knew, because they were probably in bed. I saw something on YouTube. I was like, and it just said Clone Wars -name, but it looked like a photo from Star Wars Rebels. I was like, clickbait, carried on scrolling. Was literally out of my mind for a second. Then I got a message from Phil like half an hour later. It was like, there's spoilers online. I was like, are you sure? Because I saw a Rebels thumbnail. And I was like, maybe it wasn't Rebels then, but either way, it got confirmed that it came out on Disney Plus in Australia, and the return of the VPN. So I watched it last night, and then I ended up rewatching it straight after as episode 1 through to 4 to have the Siege of Mandalore as a film. And then I literally refused to comment until one of you two messaged me. And luckily, it updated at midnight in England. It wasn't a fluke for Australia. Yeah. I think this is a one-off. I don't think Disney's going to always update the sites at midnight. But yeah, that's how I got my watch done.
Yeah, I very sadly had it spoilt for me. It's not good.
And I avoided all spoilers, which was cool. But midnight, a quarter past midnight, I think, by the time it finally went live in the UK. So I got up and watched that and was just blown away by what I'd seen. I had watched all 3 throughout the space of the day, so I'd seen them before. So I didn't watch them as one big show, but I'd seen them not long before I went to bed. So it was really good to see the previous episode. But we've had a comment coming already from Fred. But as a Elizabeth, absolutely amazing. You are absolutely right, mate. It was just, we're going to talk right through it. I mean, everything's going to come out. But it was, I can't speak highly enough of this, not just arc of episodes, but this episode alone had maybe the best ending of a Clone Wars episode ever for me.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of had to be. It really had to be. That final, that ending had to be perfect. And we'll talk more about it as we go forward. But yes, because I was sat there scrolling through YouTube at, 10:30 or 10 o'clock at night, where knowing there's going to be dropping at 8 o'clock the next morning, going, no, there's going to be no spoilers online at all. And I ended up seeing the end shot, which just, so close yet so far. And I missed you guys. I was so pissed off when I saw it. But yes, so we're going to talk about it now, going forward. So as I said, I'm going to give you one final warning, guys. Spoiler alert going forward. If you haven't seen the final episode of the Clone Wars, go and watch that before you watch this. But then, please watch or listen to this, because, we want to take you on the journey. We're going to now finally talk about this finale of, what's been over a decade in the making. We've had to wait many years now for this to come. This final arc, we've sat here for the last 4 weeks, especially to sit here, talk about the Siege of Mandalore. And the last time we saw the episode, of course, last Friday, we had Order 66. And, of course, you're left with Ahsoka and Rex in the Muddy Bay, waiting for the clone to come through the door. And that's where we start this episode. So before we crack into the actual episode itself, and before we're talking about all the details, especially that ending, guys, just give you a brief your first thoughts after seeing the episode, just immediately after, what was your initial reaction?
The way my setup is that I get to lie down in bed while watching everything. And I was like, okay, I need to get some dinner. It's like 10 o'clock at night. And I was like, I'm just sat there thinking, like taking it in for like 10 minutes. I just sort of carried on lying there. And I wanted to get it, but like, when your mind's just like in full sort of brainwash mode. I kind of had that effect. I messaged you guys like, can somebody please watch this and speak to me? And I wouldn't allow anything. I don't. When I get into spoiler territories, I don't even give people my opinions. I don't say if I like things. I don't say if I dislike things. I don't do anything. I think the one thing I said was that it was sudden, which I will delve into a bit more as we get through this. But I think as an ending to the best arc in Clone Wars, to the ending of the Clone Wars TV series, and also inexplicably setting up a plot line of Rebels, it was perfect. Now, the Rebels thing, it wasn't here is Star Wars Rebels to come. No, it wasn't that. But when I do go back and start rewatching Rebels at some point this week, it's going to probably have a completely different effect on when I was watching Rebels when it was streaming so many years ago. So I had a very good time. We were already all on board with it. We were on board on the episode. I know every episode's been, it starts where it finishes. There was definitely more of a gap between episode 2 and 3. This was the same as episode 1. This is the same 5 seconds after. And I think you needed that for this. That's as much as I'll say before we go into it properly.
Yeah. Dave?
I just was literally sat with my mouth open for the pretty much entirety of the episode. You can't quite believe you're watching the final episode of Clone Wars. It seems to have now, after all this waiting and talking about it, for it to be here was kind of weird as well. But to just watch the level at which they finished, to see everything that was going on with Maul and with Ahsoka and Rex and all the rest of the clones, and some of the imagery that we got, especially of the Star Destroyer, is just the greatest stuff I've ever seen, especially in animation terms. And I'm putting that upside of the animated movies that come out, Pixar's everything. I'd put some of this visualization against those and go, no, this is what you can do at a level for television, not an actual movie. This is like the TV animation, just far away above, better than anything I've seen. And the episode itself, I mean, we'll get into it, but I absolutely loved it. I adored it. There's maybe space for a bit. There's space for more. I'm guessing they probably could have given us longer, but they've kept it so concise and tight, and then given us a closing 2.5 minutes that I'd hoped for but wasn't expecting. And when we got what we did, amazing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, one of the interesting points is when George, you put in our chat, says, because I asked you just how long it was. That's all I wanted to know. I didn't want to know. I think I literally just asked how long it was. You just say it's 23 minutes. It's not enough.
No.
Now, the one thing I will say is, yes, it wasn't enough, but at the same time, you have to play a careful balance between overdoing it and underdoing it and hitting it just right. This could have had a little bit more, but at the same time, it was definitely erring on the side of just right, of that not enough compared to they've overdone it. And sorry, go on.
I'll say there's not a moment wasted with the main storyline of this episode, which is obviously Ahsoka and Rex. That is the perfect length, nothing more, nothing less needed to have people going away and finishing their arcs for this series. I'll get into more of the ending. My issue is the scope of the Clone Wars, more so than Ahsoka and Rex on an adventure together.
Yeah.
It's not really a criticism, but it kind of is. It's more that, if I'm going to actually say it now and be honest, but between the final scene and the Ahsoka final moment, there needed to be a scene. I don't know how they could have done it, what they would have done it, but I just think because the Clone Wars has always been about the entirety of the said Clone Wars, I feel like there was one thing missing to really tie the knot of, yes, okay, we know obviously the Emperor's risen. We know all this because we've all seen Revenge of the Sith. But I just think there was a scene missing between those 2 points. Even if it was a minute long, 2 minutes long, just to say where we are with the galaxy, then have the epilogue moment. Still worked fine the way it was. I just felt there's one for a 7 seasons of we've covered the entire galaxy, to end it on a ship crashing on a moon is a beautiful way to go. But I just felt that there was one scene missing just to tie that knot for the 7 seasons together. Is that just me?
No, I do agree. I was expecting that in a way. I was also expecting like a voiceover monologue of basically almost the same as Rebels. But to be honest, if that's the only criticism we have, then
exactly, it's not even a criticism, is it?
No.
It's more of a we could have had this, but I can't fault anything that was on screen for the 23 minutes.
Yeah, and of course we just had coming up from John saying, yeah, it's one of those cases where less is more. And I tend to agree on this case here, and purely because of the rest of the Clone Wars, especially, did deal with the galaxy out wider. Yes, it would have been nice to see it, but we didn't have to. And I mean, so my initial reaction after watching the episode was just one of there was no words. There are certain characters and certain bits that will pop up, which we are about to jump into, that gave me something, because of course we knew that Rex and Ahsoka were going to get out, but there's other characters you didn't know exactly what was going to happen, and you didn't know where the ending was going to be. So there were definitely bits we didn't see. Now, of course, unfortunately, me seeing the end kind of ruined the punchline of the show for me, but oh well, is what it is. I still watched it. I still enjoyed it. We're now going to talk about spoilers. We're now going to talk about the episode. We'll stop beating around the bush. The coolest thing for me, I must admit, in this episode, one of the coolest things for me, was seeing Jesse. Jesse now, after what had happened in the second episode, where he was taken by Maul, interrogated, had his mind completely destroyed, and gone, okay, here you go, you can have your brother back, to then have Jesse hunting down Rex and Ahsoka. I mean, it's the fact, again, as I said this in the last episode, when Rex puts his helmet on and goes from being a human, from being a clone, to being a faceless enemy, when Jesse puts his on, you've still got the Republic sigil right on his face. You still know it's Jesse, you still know it's him. But it's just a different take, and I absolutely love that.
Yeah, I know that's jumping ahead a little bit. The Jesse stuff was interesting because you kind of, obviously the Republic sigil just sort of reinforced the point that this is the Republic, like that they have turned on them. But the moment that had me is when they do their plan, and I'm not gonna lie, I'd have absolutely hated it if it had worked. She's not a Jedi anymore, let's let her go.
Yeah.
And then they think, he looks up, he's like, you gave me the order to terminate Ahsoka Tano and any clone that doesn't. And I was like, ooh, like that hit home. That was a moment. And then on the rewatch of 1 through to 4, episode 3, Rex does, I think, give the order. Sorry, it was last night I watched that. But there is the moment when he says it as well. And I was like, yeah, Jesse was on the control panel with him when he starts giving commands. So that was, again, a neat little, this happened 10 minutes ago.
Well, it's one of those things that actually kind of helped with a point. I saw someone make this point, and it's kind of interesting. I knew what the reason would be when they said, but what happens with Ahsoka and Maul? Because although, yes, Order 66 is about killing the Jedi, Ahsoka's not part of the Jedi Order, and Maul is, well, none of that. But the Order is also special. It includes other people that the Emperor deems enemies to, well, the Chancellor can see this is enemy to what his plans are. So it does include people like Ahsoka and Maul, people who are in places of power or places that could threaten him. So when Jesse goes, well, no, Ahsoka, you said it yourself, Ahsoka is a special target given to us by Darth Sidious. The fact that, again, you have Jesse saying Darth Sidious just hammers home what's going on. These clones have just gone, okay, switch is completely gone on their head. And that's what they're after. And it's a very clinical point of view from Jesse, but played so well. Indeed, Brandy Baker has a hard time enough being every single clone in the galaxy. So to play himself off between being clinical and being that good soldiers follow orders, and Rex going, well, no, the inhibitor chip's been removed. No, this is wrong. I can see what's wrong. It's just incredible.
I thought it was a really lovely moment. Not lovely and kind of, oh, what a lovely moment. But you're right. I liked seeing Jesse take the command. I love that he dropped him back down to Captain Rex, because in the future back to Captain. That he demoted him, which was lovely. That Rex, that line of I didn't like being a commander anyway was lovely. But I thought the position of them, Rex against the rest of the clones, was really nice. That moment where he said that the clones were all they wanted they would die and to kill them, and he was expecting Ahsoka to go out and just go massacre, I guess. But the fact she then said she wouldn't do that and took his helmet off, he was crying again. Rex the crier, apparently. But yeah, Stuart was about to go face with all these clones, but you kind of called that he'd say she wasn't a Jedi anymore. I thought that from very early in Order 66 that might be a line given, like she's not a Jedi, but I love that it didn't count for that. It wasn't matter. You're right. Like I said in the last episode, she was Anakin's last hope, and the fact that the Emperor was never going to let her live at any point, if you could help it, because she was still, even though he's in that suit, it's still Anakin, and maybe she could reach him. When we find out in Rebels that she can't, but I think she was always a high target, no matter what it had gone down. She was always going to be top of the Emperor's list to get rid of. But I just think it was just so well played together. I mean, before we even get there as well, we had the kind of, not the end of Darth Maul's story, but he played a massive role in what was going to happen to that ship we're on. And I think Sam Witwer had put on Twitter since the last episode that his hallway scene was not finished. And indeed, it wasn't. I mean, he tore that ship up good and proper.
Yeah, like someone tweeted him saying, basically everyone's been comparing it to the Vader hallway scene. There's very honest comparisons there. Different mediums, different plot points. And someone was like, yeah, don't compare them because Maul's isn't finished. And I was like, okay, let's see what happens next, shall we? And then you just get it's the Rex line of, like, oh, Maul's escapes, like, no, I've let him out. And he's like, oh. And then it just, it's the moment where they just turn up and it's just like, yep, force choke. And then I was like, oh, I hope that wasn't this ending of the hallway scene. And it kind of was, because the hallway actually leads to a room, a hyperdrive engine room. And oh my word, we've not really seen this in Star Wars. It felt like something out of like, do you remember like Force Unleashed? It just felt familiar.
Yeah. And
it was like, oh, look, remember in those games when you could like force push people off balconies and watch them die? And there's more just doing it to everyone. And, you know, as a farewell action set piece, having a clone trooper force, you know, shooting everyone. We've not really seen that in Star Wars for a while. It was so good, so dark, and Maul knew exactly what he was doing. He just looked angry. I mean, we know he's angry. We know he was angry with Ahsoka because she wouldn't give him a lightsaber. He didn't need it. He took out an entire ship without a lightsaber. The moment where he uses their helmets as like a protector, and then like force pushes it at him so he falls off the balcony. The Maul scene. What a way to end! Because obviously we know he's in Rebels. We know he's in Solo. Like, we know he's got places to be, and they didn't need to focus on him too much. But his sort of farewell, he had his big action scene, and then he had his sort of ... moment of getting in that ship and flying off to hyperspace. He didn't need anything more than that. I thought it was so well handled for his sort of farewell point.
What's that line when you have him running to the ship and blocking up Ahsoka going, you wanted this chaos? Because he goes, don't blame me. You wanted this. I'm just doing what you said. I'm getting out of here. But again, it's that set piece of him in the hyperdrive room, bringing down everything around him. The red mist that comes off as well. Yes, okay, that's very much an artistic point from Dave Filoni to have the red mist descending on Maul. However, it just looked cool. And of course, you had that line from Ahsoka, which says, no, I let him go. And he goes, why? It's a version. Said, well, that's a word for it. You know what's happening. And it's just mental. And then, yeah, it's just, by the time you get to the hangar bay, Maul has just completely and utterly destroyed the ship. It comes out of hyperspace. What I liked was the calling back to Rebels, well, calling forward, I should say, to Rebels, where you have the Interdictor class Star Destroyer that can pull things out of hyperspace. That kind of, it had the same animation stuff when it came out of hyperspace with the different colors coming through hyperspace as it was going back down to sub-light speed. But then, of course, you just see this decimated ship and a moon. Now, I was talking with Ron after the episode and saying, is that Hoth? I don't believe it is. And we'll get to why later on, but I think my first thought was Concordia, but it does look kind of familiar.
I think it's just a neutral new thing.
Yeah.
Didn't need to be any other planet. It served its purpose. I think if they'd turned and said, oh, it's Hoth, it's Tatooine, it's this, it's that, it's like, oh, you know, here we go again. You know, as much as I love my nostalgia, just It's just
No.
the purpose of the moon was for something to crash on. It didn't need anything more. So
No.
maybe they'll name it. It could be anything. Like Starkiller Base is now Ilum.
Yes, it is.
Still a weird thought, but it's kind of cool.
It is. But yeah, we are
I like that. Yeah.
Sorry, go on, Dave.
Sorry, just going to continue on that point. Just that the planet itself. You're right. I don't think I'm sure it will by the end of today, maybe, or when they give the episode guide, it will have a name of what the planet is that it's landed on. But it didn't need to be a known planet. I think it's better that it's somewhere that the Empire had to search for, and I think we'll get to that more at the end. But yeah, I like the fact that it's maybe somewhere they've never been before, which is really nice. But yeah, so I guess we've covered kind of Maul stole the ship from Ahsoka and Rex, leaving there. Although we did see Ahsoka's Force ability and how powerful she was to hold back a ship that Darth Maul was really trying to rev out of that place, and she was just the strength that she's got now from this little girl who came in to the Clone Wars movie to how powerful Force user, I wouldn't say a Jedi, but a Force user that she is. Quite incredible for this character to be where she is when we leave the series.
Indeed, which she does say, I am no Jedi, and this does kind of prove that she's just giving into the Force and doing what she wants to do, but erring towards the light side of things. And of course, we can't talk about the Hangar Bay without talking about, we've talked about the interaction between Jess and Rex, the interaction between someone who's had the switch flipped and someone who's removed the switch. The Star Destroyer coming down on this moon, whatever it is. We might as well talk about this particular scene right here. Before we get to Ahsoka, just the helmets lined up, just that part. I mean, Rex gets the Y-Wing, gets them out of the ship. By the time they land, you know it's not going to be a happy place. And I don't know about you guys, but when I saw those helmets lined up, it was very reminiscent of when we had the Clone Wars Saved trailer. All you saw was helmet upon helmet upon helmet lined up in a row. And of course, you had all the missiles coming down. You had in the background just flashes from the past of the Clone Wars, of course, then gives some new footage. But this kind of had that feeling. It's a very somber moment as you just see the helmets of Ahsoka's 332nd Battalion just lined up.
I love what we're talking now. The moment of the helmets. I got Mandalorian. Cool. There was two things. Mandalorian, because you had the amazing, obviously, original shot of the Stormtrooper helmets from the trailer, and also again, not setting up Rebels because this wasn't, but to sort of make that hooded Ahsoka for the finale of Star Wars Rebels with her white gown. It was the kind of image of Rex looking at her hood up again, and I'm going to talk a bit more about Ahsoka at the end because there's a lot to say. But it was one of the main points of Clone Wars is that they're not a faceless army, they're people.
Yeah.
And you've had a couple of moments in this season, Rex's dialogue and whatnot, the Order 66 command, but it was this scene more than any where it was I'm not really bothered by Jessie, but it was more the concept that yes, all these people were trying to kill her for 2 episodes. She's refusing to kill them. Rex wants to kill them, that she just won't allow it. She knows they're just following orders, and again, it goes back to what she says. Jedi, as a Jedi, we were like followers, not followers. Basically, we're with the peace, we're not soldiers.
Peace, not
soldiers. Yeah,
and because it's not really criticism of Star Wars, but of the logistical keepers of the peace, and yet every Jedi became a general. I get this sometimes keeping the peace by doing war and whatnot, but it's nice to have this other viewpoint of shouldn't have got involved.
No.
And that ultimately was the failure of the Jedi, getting really into it. But I thought, again, that built up Ahsoka's character, because at this point in time, where we are, knowing there's been Rebels, knowing we've had Clone Wars, stuff in between, she is probably going to end up, when her story arc is finished, as one of the best Jedi ever.
Yeah.
In a conversation, I'm not going to say it yet because I don't think her stories are done, but she will at some point probably be put in the same sort of paragraph as Yoda, Kenobi, Luke, and all them. She will enter probably the top 5.
Yeah.
That's what I'm willing to say at some point.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you there.
For me, she's already there. She was someone who came in, let's just say, she came in as this child who people kind of rallied against when she was first introduced, especially being a Padawan to Anakin. to then grow to where she is now and have the following she has, but also the respect of the majority of the fan community. There are still those who will hit for hitting reasons, but I'd put her right up there with Kenobi and with Yoda. I think she's just a magnificent character. I've loved this journey of seeing her grow into the character she's become.
Yeah,
I love that we get a continuation of her story after this as well. But I just thought if we're going back into the moment, obviously the ship crashes on the planet, and then we get this really 3-4 minutes where all we're getting is music. There's no more words said. You see Rex putting a spade onto the side of the Y-wing, and I was like, oh, okay. I thought we started to collect for that old ramshackled itty water that he has. I thought, he's starting to collect pieces already. Yeah. And then it clicked on me why he had a spade, and I was like, oh, okay. And I just thought it was such a powerful moment to see the pullback and her stood in front of the helmets, that they'd gone in and not only just abandoned them, it crashed and they'd left that ship, they went in and found all the clones that they could and then give them a proper send-off as well. And I thought it was such a powerful image. The music, again, Kevin kind of just, again, continuing on from last episode, the soundtrack is just incredible. Again, I'd love to sit down and actually listen. I don't know if they release them on iTunes or...
Literally, I was about to tell you guys while you're talking, it is finally just gone up on Spotify. So,
nice.
Cool.
Kevin Kiner, at the end of each arc, they've released the soundtrack, and that's literally just come up in the last 20 minutes, which was why I was about to say something. So that was perfect timing.
Excellent.
Because I'm the same as you. The music, certainly of the last 2 episodes, it's very Blade Runner-esque with the synths. And yeah, sometimes you don't need dialogue, and we've not really had this in Star Wars before. Now, Padme's Reminiscence isn't really a synth, but it was this different kind of music. This suited it so well. It's like the ambiguity of what's to come. And I think for the last 5 minutes, it just nothing. You didn't need the Imperial match. You didn't need some war here, like as much as I love Avengers Endgame. You didn't need the funeral music that was Tony Stark's funeral. What they picked just worked just as a continuity of the last 5 minutes of the series. The moment she gets in that ship and the little dome comes down, that's like the ending of the Clone Wars. And I thought it was a very powerful score. And I cannot wait to get listening to that after this, because I'm also obsessed with the duel in episode 2 where you've got the drums banging. So the soundtrack's out on Spotify. I'm assuming YouTube and everywhere else now for people to listen to.
Yeah, the soundtrack has been one of the highlights of these 4 episodes. I mean, to be fair, that the Clone Wars has had a very good history with Kevin Kiner music anyway. The actual I've got the complete soundtracks for the Clone Wars plus the movie as well, and it's one of my favorites to listen to, because the pieces have to be a little bit shorter, a little bit punchier because of the nature of the show, but also he's not afraid to extend them. He's not afraid to give you bigger set pieces music wise, both emotional and for action as well. And these last 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever it is, there didn't need to be any dialogue. The music was a voice of its own. It allowed you to just sit there and take in the moment. But the music, not only did it not jar, not only did it flow really well, but actually I think it added to it. I mean, when you have this particular lineup here of the helmets, when it has the slow track across the front, the music is in a really somber place without he doesn't play on the traditional notes of, you must have some really low, bassy kind of mournful sound. He does put in high notes here and there. He paints a really good picture with music to accompany what you're seeing on screen. And to jump forward to the real ending and the real part of it, when you said that, George, you didn't need the Imperial March. No, you did not. And when you actually have the ending, when you have the Lambda land, when you see snowtroopers, stormtroopers, the Imperial probe droids, when you get the Empire, it didn't need to have it. And actually, I think the scene was better for not including it. It wasn't what would have been a Star Wars cliche, as it were, to have the Imperial March over, especially when Vader does rock up. You didn't need it. And it was just played perfectly. I think probably Filoni had a bit to say with that. He knew, because the Imperial March especially has had its notes here and there in the Clone Wars when Anakin's done something bad, when he's done something inherently against the Jedi, when he's had those notes of his future being kind of projected, you do get the notes in the Imperial March here and there, that kind of, even if it's just a few notes, you do have it played. This didn't have it, it didn't need it, I think it's better for it.
Definitely.
It's quite an incredible piece, and I just think for those 4.5, 5 minutes that we got, probably only about 3 minutes. I'm not quite sure. I haven't watched the episode again to see exactly how long, but those closing moments from, like I said, with Rex with the spade right until that helmet in the snow and the reflection of Vader in the visor, it was just incredible. It was just a moment of real goosebumps watching it happen, because the soundtrack was amazing, and I guess we're on to it really. But yeah, we get a jump forward. We don't get a time scale of how far we've jumped, but we'll go. I'm guessing a few years since the end of the Clone Wars.
Well,
by the time we get to this,
with the actual Stormtrooper armor, the Snowtrooper armor, with the Lambda itself, as I was saying before we came on, the Lambda's the dead giveaway, because, well, the Lambda wasn't brought into service until 3 or 4 years after the Clone Wars. You still were using V-Wings and Republic ships, and the crossover took a while. The Imperial Pro Droid, again, that wasn't developed in a day. The Republic Pro Droids were very different. So, yes, it is a jump forward, and of course, the jump forward to this. Let's just talk about this.
This scene, I love the fact the planet snowed over, because time passed. If you look at the when they first show the moon, there is actually snow stuff at the top anyway.
Yeah.
But I like the fact they didn't tell you what date. It's meant to be ambiguous. You know, we know it's not right after Clone Wars, but it's at any point between that and season 2 of the Rebels. Could have been 3 months before season 2 of Rebels. Who knows? But it didn't need to say what year. I'm happy it didn't. It was just this. Oh, they've been searching for things, and clearly, you know, the probe droids picked up a lightsaber. And because I'm sure over the 19 years, there were many clone helmets found that no one probably cared about. But I'm assuming they found the crashed ship followed by a lightsaber, and that would have immediately gone to Vader. And he didn't need to speak. They didn't need to speak to him. The purpose of the scene was not an epilogue, but it was more the tragedy of Darth Vader, that he's the man trapped, and we hear him breathing a couple of times. We see it, but at no moment he doesn't scream no.
Nope.
Sometimes you don't need to speak. Maybe I'll discuss that next Saturday in a video. Who knows? But there was a moment in which you can, by his body position, you can sense the emotion within him. Even though he's not really a man, he's a robot, you can just sense it based off his movement, how slow he is dusting off the snow. It was one of the greatest scenes in Clone Wars as a whole. And igniting the lightsaber is also very... Now, my question is, was this the short lightsaber or the longer one?
That's the short side. That's the...
Because it looked good. And also, guys, does that look like a Star Wars Rebels lightsaber with the pointy top?
Well, Clone Wars has pointy tops. It's the same as that. But the thickness of the blade is more Clone Wars than anything else.
Okay, it just looked very... I don't know if it's because I'm so used to seeing Vader in Rebels, but it obviously it was amazing seeing this Clone Wars render of the Stormtroopers, Snowtroopers, and Vader. But it felt like we're pushing into the Rebels era at the exact same time. Comment from Fred: you can see Anakin dies. Someone. The red lens, which one of my favorite things about A New Hope. There doesn't need to be a polished, shiny helmet as well. Everything was there which you needed. I don't know, guys. It's like I was watching Rogue One last week, and you know, when you do watch New Hope, there's no shiny Vader helmet, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I loved that Rogue One kept that it wasn't polished and clean, because you know it was set an hour before or whatever you want to say. And this one was the same. He just happened to change helmet between films. He got an upgrade. But I thought this scene was the perfect epilogue that Clone Wars could have had. We all kind of assumed there could have been an Emperor or a Vader thing.
But
I didn't expect this.
This shot here is the perfect end shot for Clone Wars.
And I'm happy it wasn't Jesse's helmet.
Yes, same.
Because it was the reminder of Ahsoka. and that's all it needed. He knew these were Ahsoka's troops.
Yeah.
This was her mission, and all of them died. And I'm assuming he probably thinks she's died too, because there's a lightsaber that's been buried there.
Yeah.
At that point, yeah, because he didn't until Rebels when he says the apprentice lives.
Yeah.
I'm guessing until that point, she has separated herself enough where she's not sensing him anymore either. She says as well when we get back Rebels that she sensed him disappear on Order 66 and then didn't feel him again because, well, he's no longer Anakin, I guess, as war. Anakin technically is dead. But the fact that he doesn't sense Ahsoka either, acting with their connection in the Force, that point has been broken, definitely. And I like that they didn't connect, because obviously when she felt him turn, there was that massive connection in the Force. For them to then lose that connection entirely shows just how detached and how dead the character of Anakin was. He became Vader. That connection was completely gone between the two of them, and I love that. He's come down, seen the helmets, seen it was her platoon, the troopers he introduced her to, and he finds our lightsaber, and I just think it was just a moment for him to reflect. Obviously, we did get I can never remember the name of the bird that is in Rebels.
Yeah.
The owl. That's supposed to be the sister from the. It's reminiscent of the sister in the Mortis trilogy.
Yeah.
Weirdly, it ties back in again. How amazing that must be. So yeah, I love that. We saw that again, and we see that again flying over when they have the battle in Rebels season 2. So it ties in really well with that. I just thought as an ending, like we had in our predictions at the last show, that I said I'd love to see Vader. I never thought we'd see this. I thought we'd see just after, and like we said with Phil last episode as well, like on the Star Destroyer, just very formal to get them on another planet years after Clone Wars was finished. Vader's hunting for the relics he was looking for all the time after this. Just I can't give it high enough praise. It was so well done, so well executed. I can't wait to watch it again, as George has done, as a full 4-part sort of movie, and it's and I really doff my hat and say well done. This was so much better than anything that had come before it in Clone Wars. It was way better than I expected after seeing obviously the Bad Batch and then the sisters arc, which were all right, which were good. But they're not even on this level. It's like a different show, these last 4 episodes, and I'm so good it's over, but so happy we got this.
Yeah, I mean, the ending had to come at some point, and I'm glad that Filoni got to tell the end. I think he took the moment and did as well as he could with it. It's a phenomenal ending for me.
Yeah, it's the ending Clone Wars deserves. It was a fantastic episode. It was visually stunning. It tied up everyone's character arcs perfectly to put them in the places where they need to be without making too many comments about where those places can be. I think, I always harken back to, I know it's The Hobbit, but there's definitely some other I don't know if The Phantom Menace or Revenge of the Sith did it as much. Maybe Rogue One, it's like Lord of the Rings kind of ended like, oh yes, I'm going to find a ranger, and that's the main character from like Lord of the Rings. I think Rogue One, I'm going to go back to Alderaan, I'm going to speak to that Jedi, and I know how I'm going to take care of it. It's that kind of nod in the head, like, okay, you can get away with that because Rogue One's about that. If this had been, final shot, a Jedi running away from Order 66, it's Caleb Dune, or it would have been too easy to have set things up, but they didn't need to because, not everyone that watches Clone Wars has seen Rebels or will see Rebels. It needed to end Clone Wars, where if then you want to visit the other ones, then you've got, this happened, and their story's finished, which is why they're popping up now, not because the Clone Wars got cancelled, but because their story arc's finished in Clone Wars.
It was why I like this image so much. That ending of Clone Wars, beginning of something else with Vader's reflection, it's just this. That imagery tells you everything and nothing at the same time. Tells you just what you need to know without actually overtly stating anything. It's a really nice set piece.
Definitely.
Yeah. It was one of those things when it came to doing this this podcast. We've been here over 3 years now, nearly come up to 3.5 years. We all love the Clone Wars, go into it, we've all spoken about it. When the announcement came up that it was coming back, I said at the time, it's either going to be a series or a movie. We ended up getting both. And We didn't know how it's going to end. We've actually sat here for the last 4 weeks going, okay, 5 weeks now, before this final arc going, okay, this is what we want to see. This is how we think it will go. And every single week we've all changed our tune because we've gone, okay, well, they've done this. This is better than we thought. Maybe this will happen. Every single week without fail, Filoni's gone, cool, nice ideas, but this is better. And he's just given us the best. The interesting part, of course, is he directed the end of this. He didn't really necessarily write it. He hasn't got a writing credit for it. I think maybe it's better for it. He's been able just to sit back, not worry about writing it, but just how he wants to tell the story, and it was just perfect.
I can't. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to kind of go on. I mean, to just kind of put hyperbole and to boost this up any more than I can. It's going to come out over the next few hours as people start seeing this around the world, as people start getting it in the states and start waking up places. You're going to just it's going to be off the chart. Twitter today is probably going to be alive with Clone Wars and images, and I love that we are getting this. I just think it's I can't think of a better ending for a better show, for a better part of the saga. And for one, I'm so grateful that between episode 2 and 3 we got this. This was exactly what we needed. For me, this is the perfect building out of Anakin's fall, which I don't think was enough in episode 2 and 3. Personally, I don't think. I mean, Anakin's fall felt very quick in episode 3. This helps so much more with all of that. I love how it's built on a character from a movie and made those movies more to me than they were. I will certainly watch. Now they're all available on Disney Plus 1 through 9. Go watch them. And I just think it's an amazing thing to be able to watch these and have this knowledge of the Clone Wars. For people who don't go back and watch kids' cartoons about Star Wars, I think they're missing out on a lot when it comes to the prequels because of this series, and that's a big take from it.
And also, you know, they say, Clone Wars is for kids. Guess what? All Star Wars films are for kids. All 11 of them. You know, that's as much I'm going to say on that. And that's what George Lucas says too.
Yeah.
No, that's the thing. Like, spot on, talking about Clone Wars, this is a series which had a very bad beginning. That's me being abundantly clear. Put a lot of people off. And people aren't going to hide from the fact that it turned them over. It made them enjoy it. Yes, I'm sure there are some people that did enjoy it at the start. Fair play to you. Even people younger than me, because there are, have said that they grew up, this was their Star Wars, which is, you know, fair play, because there is, I guess, in theory, people that grew up between 3 and 7, that this was their sort of current thing. So obviously, to them, having it finished for them is probably an almighty deal too. Spot on, Dave. When you look at the prequels, now I've got childhood nostalgic glasses on, so I always kind of use that as my excuse, but the character of Anakin becomes, you know, when Obi-Wan sits there talking to Luke in his hut, saying your father was a cunning warrior and a great man. You don't really get a sense of that from episodes 2 and 3, me being perfectly honest. But then you take into account Clone Wars and you see all of that. And I really do think, you know, Star Wars is about Anakin Skywalker, and I will say that many a time. He is the chosen one. This series finishes with Anakin Skywalker. It's and also Mr. Lucas getting first credit again. Very, very important. Because, you know, Dave Filoni, when he announced the ending of Rebels, he said, "Oh yeah, one thing I've really been looking." What, remember, was it Celebration Orlando? It was like, "Oh yeah, it's nice to get an ending. This is why the next is to be Rebels final." And I was like, "What?" And like everyone was like, "What?" Like he just randomly announced the ending of Rebels on a live stream. And obviously in the pipeline we had Clone Wars. So, you know, him being able to finish his own series is a very big thing. And I think also Lucas probably liked that too, that, you know, this was all done a couple of years ago. Some of these scripts were written 8 years ago. You know, so the motion capture certainly was probably 2-3 years ago, if that. This has been a long time project, and it's kind of the end of an era. Like right now, as of now, the prequel era is kind of, I'm not going to say complete, but it has a start, middle, and end for the 13 years in which we get it across the media.
Yeah, I mean, we have Kenobi, we have Cassian, but Kenobi is going to be your last kind of...
Kenobi is going to be like the epilogue to the prequels. It's the yes, it's during the Empire, but it's Ewan, so it's that kind of. This feels like the farewell to the prequel era, but Kenobi is going to be something else. I'm very excited.
Yeah, for sure. So that's the thing. Going back to it, when I watched the Clone Wars movie in the cinema, I enjoyed it, but it left me going, it's kind of not the Star Wars I remember. In terms of it was good, but it didn't enthrall me enough to want to watch the series. It took me a while to come around to watching it. As soon as I watched it, okay, now I know what I've been missing out on. This, if you compare the opening film to this as a film, I mean, the way the show is developed, the way the show's come, and what they've done with it is just incredible. I mean, now you go back and actually it makes sense because you watch the beginning through to the end of the Clone Wars. It does get better as it goes along. It ages like a fine wine, and so the ending here was just. We may do a Clone Wars retrospective, a full-on video, us just talking about the entirety of the Clone Wars. This is, of course, dedicated to the finale. But I do think this was the best way they could end it.
Definitely. I don't think there was another way they could have ended it. Except, obviously, what I mentioned earlier, if there was this one extra scene, but the Ahsoka storyline, the Siege of Mandalore, the Vader epilogue, perfect. Well worth the wait.
Yeah, that's the only criticism, and it's not even much of a criticism we have. Then they've done an amazing job. We sit here, we always give our honest opinion. If we like it, we like it. If we don't, we don't. We don't bash anything. We just try to give you our thoughts on it, and we'll try and balance it out between the three of us. But this is one of those rare moments where all three of us can sit here quite categorically and go, is there anything bad we can say about this? No, not really. Cool. Let's just talk about everything else. And I think we've rambled on enough about this particular episode. When we do a retrospective at some point, we've got some other videos coming up. We'll talk about something in a minute for that. But guys, any closing thoughts on the closing of the Clone Wars?
Not that I can say at the minute.
Just how good it's been. It's been a journey. This last few weeks has been superb, and I can't build it again. I can't big it up enough. I've said the same thing over and over again because I have no other words for it to how good and how much I love this. And it's been an amazing run. Like just before, I'm sad it's over, but so glad we got what we did. And it's come to an end, and let's move on to whatever's new.
Definitely. I'm excited to see what comes next. I think Mr. Filoni I think he's going to be headlining one more animated series, and then I think his journey towards live action will be complete. I think the next animated series will be his final as head of animation at Lucasfilm. If anyone hasn't seen it yet, we're not doing reviews on it, but the Mandalorian show that started up on Disney Plus. If you didn't believe that Dave Filoni was the chosen one, watch the first 10 minutes and then say he's not. That's all I'm going to say on that. No, that's everything I've got to say in Clone Wars. Is it time to announce Saturday? I know we'll do some more stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
But I was going to say, George, you go for it now. That's what we got coming up.
Yeah, so I was rewatching the prequels. I think I've mentioned to you guys quite off air that not that it's aged badly on 4K, but there's certainly some changes that could have been made. And we know a certain George Lucas used to love making changes to his films. In fact, the prequels even had a round of changes before, such as CGI and Yoda. And I'd started having some ideas like what would have been really good for a special edition version of prequels, and it just led to a discussion that, okay, why not do a video on it? And that's what we're going to do. This Saturday, we are going to be doing a new video. We don't have a full title for it, but it's basically going to be us having a roundtable discussion with changes we would love to see made to the prequels. If, guys, this isn't real, this isn't clickbait, but if they would do a special edition prequels, aka the final ever prequel cut, what changes would need to be made. And we are also going to be having a crossover for this. We have Matt from Blue Banther Milk Co. Coming onto the video. If you've not seen Blue Banther, they literally just finished their Clone Wars review before we went live. They are Australian based. Without them, I wouldn't have known that I could have used my VPN to pretend to be Australian last night. There's going to be some social media posts this week, but we're looking forward to it. It's going to be good to have a crossover. Get some other opinions on, not that we like our own, but it's always nice to branch out. So that is going to be another morning one taking place at 10 a.m. GMT this Saturday, the 9th of May. Obviously, we'll have more details in the week, but very much looking forward to that because I have a couple of things, and Clone Wars does tie into some things that I think of too.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be an interesting video to do. Yeah, and of course, you never know. We may be live again today, May the 4th, with a lot of news. You never know. We could be back. But yes, we do have that coming up at the end of the week. Dave, any final closing thoughts on this?
They want to hear my same thoughts again. But look,
Yeah.
just perfect. Go watch this again. Go take it all in. Enjoy this run of Clone Wars stories, and just go out there and embrace what this has given to us over since 2008 to now, and the extra story that it's built into this universe that we all love.
Indeed. So I think it's all left for me to say is my final closing thoughts, which is thank you, Lucasfilm, for giving Filoni the chance to end the series the way that it deserved. And boy, did he not disappoint. So that's it. We have finished talking about the Clone Wars. I can't believe it. After all these years, it's over. But as I said, thank God they gave him the opportunity to finish it. So all I have to say is thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at One's the Force of Stars Podcast, at the Force Podcast. You can find the video for this later on our Facebook and YouTube pages. And of course, the audio version will be up later on our Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify, and iTunes. Our merchandise, of course, is in the description down below. And until next time, we've been One's the Force. May the Force always be with you. Goodbye.